we go. Class 4, the art of communications, communication tactics. The art of negotiation is the key skill for ambassadors. It involves not only bargaining over terms, but understanding the underlying desires and motivation of the other party. A skilled ambassador must assess their counterpart's needs, weakness, potential benefits. Probably the strongest example you're going to find in real life is going to be what's going on with the Ukraine and Russia. Um, Trump is considered one of the best negotiators in the world. And if you watch real closely, some of the stuff that's mentioned in here is going on in real time, like what happened this week with where in the U.S., 7 nations met to meet with the gentleman to give him security concerns before he's willing to negotiate a peace treaty. And a lot of the stuff we're talking about deals with that, how he segmented. He met first with the 7 nations and with the Ukraine separately in order to give him the assurances he needed before he's willing to meet with the person who needs to do negotiation with. And then they're going to meet all three together to put the whole package together, which, oddly enough, apparently European leaders have not done that since World War II. Sat down in the U.S. and actually did what they did. It's not been done for at least 60 years. But Trump is very, 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 very good negotiations. Um, In this case, what he was looking at is the counterpart's needs, weaknesses, potential benefits to craft a deal. That is being doing. The counterpart's need was he needed assurances from Europe that if the contract goes bad, that they'll back him up and send in troops to take care of him. That was a major need for the Ukraine, which is why the 7 nations were there to speak to him this week. Potential benefits, he's offering number one, protection, and number two, extreme economic benefits. The U.S. is offering to send in contractors and people to go aid, rebuild the Ukraine. C, they will start earning money off their minerals, of which Ukraine's rich in, and they'll be sold to the U.S., which means that they're going to settle to make a heck of a lot of money out of this while being rebuilt and have assurances. Those are all potential benefits that he's selling in order to get Ukraine to the table. And the same is going to happen to Russia. So my point is that I guarantee you that he sat down with Russia and offered them business benefits if they decide to make the deal with Ukraine. So they're going to get something out of this. It isn't just going to be quitting the war. There's going to be some things bundled up on the business side. Watch as soon as that contract between Russia and the U.S. and Ukraine, watch the announcement as to what Russia's getting out of this. Because they're being willing to quit a war, so they're going to have to get something. So again, you have
Something
to
big.
decide what are the benefits, what are they going to get out of it, what assurances do they have, and you're watching that in real time in the world. John Norman discussed the concept of negotiation influence in various books within the series. Negotiation is not merely the act of talking, but the act of listening to the art of what's unsaid. That's why I'm saying that in order to seal this deal between the 2 nations been fighting for 4 years, you have to listen closely to what they want, like Ukraine wanting assurances from all those nations that they'll have backup. That was a big deal. And if you noticed in the meeting before that, they didn't come. When Ukraine went to U.S., they weren't there. Apparently, Trump listened, realized that was a major need, got the countries there and sat down and said, let's talk. You must realize the importance of listening carefully. Ambassador must only speak between the lines. That was a big between the line for Ukraine. Now, it's little wonder in cities of Gore support and welcomes affairs. Sometimes they provoke a common ground. I mentioned to somebody that the thing is a good example of that, and so is Ankara. If you're an ambassador, I would come with business cards. I would come with information about your city and make the thing in Ankara. Both are two major events spaced apart. We can get access to both northern and southern cities, go and meet with their chieftains or city leaders on a neutral grounds. And usually their key people are all there. That is, you won't get access just to that, but you're going to see their ambassador. You may see their chief trader because they all go to those tents and sit around for a week. There's no better place to get everybody in one place. Mm,
Thanks.
excellent way to do business. And very good to remember when those events happen yearly. Both the thing in Ankara, I think March for Ankara, the thing just happened last month. It helps to hold the, like any country, one common language helps to hold the diverse regions together. In Gore, it's Gorian. In the world, it's usually English. It's a negotiation language because otherwise you end up with the United Nations with a hell of a lot of translators. That doesn't work well when trying to do business, so usually they learn one common language. Verbal, there are two types of communications important. Verbal, human language can be human spoken and pictorial language can be described as a system of symbols. So now this is the technical definition. If you take it in college, this is exactly how it's going to be explained. By which symbols are manipulated. Communication is the flow of information from one person to another or a group of people. That's the academic view. In Second Life Course, the primary means in which we present ourselves, which we partly explain why pair role players go to such lengths. Our choice of words express our education. If we use ghetto here, that says a lot. Or if we tend towards texting rather than full send. One of the things I still remember a few years ago, a woman came up and wanted to visit with me, a flirt basically. The problem was when she talked, she was using a lot of acronyms in short language, and I immediately realized the girl was probably under 30 or even 20 and was in Second Life. Why? Because of the speech, the words she chose not to use. She was using acronyms all over the place, shortened language, things like that. You almost need a handbook to understand everything she was saying. But she was much, much younger. You know, they actually make dictionaries for that. And it's because she's much, much younger and they're used to texting most of the time. So what happened was when
Yeah, no, I get it.
you throw texting language into Second Life, it throws the hell out of you. Then you get the pair role players that go great length to express everything. So my point is that's why the pair
Yes.
role players do it though. They do it to express their emotions, what's going on around them, what they're feeling. Are they hot? Are they cold? I get that because we can't see faces. What we can see is what the pair role players give us. Now, for some reason, that did not cut and paste. I hope I am not. No, it did. I'm sorry. It's up here. There we go. Yeah, what happened was the sentence was so long it popped out on me. Nonverbal. Um, the verbal's easier, and we learned that women especially measure up their men in Second Life based off of that. I don't know how, but they figure out if you're conning them. They figure out if you can be trusted, and an awful lot of it obviously is done through verbal, since there's no way in hell you could see their face. They could be fat, ugly, sitting in a chair with beer in their hand, and you wouldn't know. But if
In
they,
their mom's basement.
yeah, but if they sit there and they properly express themselves and show manners and the way they do things and say excuse me and all that good stuff, the woman starts feeling like, huh, maybe the guy's okay. So words are everything. We do have the nonverbal, which is impossible except through pair role playing. Now again, the technical strikes the process of conveying meaning in the form of nonverbal. Um, Tics, gestures, body language, posture, facial expressions, eye contact, communication such as clothing, hair. Now, I have seen, and you have too, inside of profiles. If you don't wear mesh, don't talk to me. Clothing,
Oh,
hairstyles.
wow.
That is a big deal for a lot of women. Why? Because if the man's not willing to spend money on his body and on his clothing, it tells a lot about the person. And I know somebody, one of the leaders of one of these cities, wearing the same damn avatar as wearing 15 years ago. God, he looks ugly. Now he doesn't care.
I know two.
He's the leader of the city, so who in the hell cares? But the point is that he's wearing stuff that he wore 15 years ago. Tells you one of two things: he's on welfare and can't afford better stuff, or he just doesn't give a shit. And a lot of women feel like that they don't care enough to make themselves look good like women do, that they
Huh?
probably don't care enough about themselves or the women they have. So they don't even talk to them if they come in with non-mesh, funked up hairstyles and clothing. Architect centuries, infographics, tone of voice. That only happens if you do voice, which is one of the reasons why, especially if I'm going to do FC somebody, I want to be able to talk to them. Because there's nothing worse than having a discussion where the person misunderstands you because it's all flat type. They
Yes.
misunderstand
Yeah.
your tone, they misunderstand if you're kidding. Very, very difficult not to
Yep.
screw that up if you don't do voice with somebody. And if you're somebody you're
Yes.
close to,
I
that
agree.
becomes a big deal. Because of the use of media, we use communication here. Often, unless you type it nonverbal, it's lost the interpretation. Para role players are the best at showing nonverbal. They say they're slouching, they're crying softly. Um, they go to great lengths to do that, and I get that. I am not a good para role player. I'm becoming a semi para, but definitely not a good para role player. And I'm shunned by my city because of that, because an awful lot of people in my city are para and prefer and enjoy doing it. And since I'm not a para, I don't get the role play a lot of people get. I get that, and I choose to be there because I get a lot of traffic. It is one of the largest cities, and they do work their ass off at getting people in there. But overall, para role players are kind of snobbish in the sense that they prefer not to interact with people that aren't. Um,
Because I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you para role play, semi para role play, or shoot one liners. What gets me is the people that don't know how to take turns.
oh yeah, the ones that jump in again. Remember I said about manners,
Yeah.
which is why, because it's a flag for some people, which is why I don't go to anywhere where there's more than four people. You will be wrapped up in a freaking 1 hour role play if there's four people or more.
To do something that would take 10 minutes to say.
It ends up becoming because every one of the plus the ones that get me are the people who wait until the last person spoke to start typing their reply. The ones I
Oh,
like are the
no.
ones that already started the reply and then add at the end if somebody comes up. But the ones that mess you up are the ones who waited
Yes.
and they're sitting there 5 minutes to reply to something they could have started typing 5 minutes ago. And instead of just tacking on
I
the
take
end the
out a
change,
note card.
yeah,
Right? I
basically.
take out a note card. I do my reply for each person. And then when it's my turn, I only have the last person to say something to.
That works, and I never thought of it, but that's a good thank you, because that's a good advice, actually. No, that is. I didn't even think about that. That's a good way to handle it. Somebody else mentioned note cards. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. But now that you say that, I could see why that would be true. That's a good idea. But at any rate, that makes the conversation unbelievably long if they start typing when the last person talks. So yeah, what should be a quick 20-minute conversation turns into an hour, and that's a nine numbing for me. It just is. But again, I have the highest respect for them because you actually get the sense of if they're smiling, if they're slouching, what's going on. Um, on the flip side of that, just a minute. Actually, it's going to show up on the next lesson, so I'll hold off on what I was going to say. All right. Business role play, formal greeting, offer opportunity, revisions, and message. For casual, it breaks down to, because what I started to say will show up in the next class. Formal grading, occupation, recreation, a message. Now, as an ambassador, you'll mostly be using formal. Let me show you how this works in play. Basically, changing reply or stances based on the other flow gives you information. Also, revisions. If you're discussing, and then I'll go through and break this down. If you're discussing or alliance with another ambassador or merchant, you both disagree on any of the terms of the contract has to be arrived until both cities are satisfied and willing to sign, which is why I said that when Trump brought in the Ukraine, they hit a brick wall He literally had to come back again this week to do it because they had one part they couldn't agree on. They had to break up. Obviously, phone calls were made. Europe was shipped in 7 countries, and now the person negotiating is brought back in to negotiate as a bigger game. Now it looks like there's going to be 2 more meetings if that agreement's ever going to be signed between those nations. But if you do disagree, then you have to stop and come back later. And that's what happened to Ukraine this time around. Actually, this meeting was a good one. It was the one before where it fell apart. And they said, okay, we'll try this in a couple of weeks. And they did. It's a matter of approving the terms. The approval process can be long. We've talked about before. You're dealing with a contract that's handed back to multiple times when you take it back to your city. So the High Council, the EU borrow the High Scribe for advice on how to satisfy this potential ally, but still to satisfy the needs of their city or make the most resource of your city. Tharna was a city I went through this process. It took me 3 weeks to get their freaking agreement together. And the major reason had to do with it being one of the few cities that had female warriors and female leaders, and they wanted assurances in the contract that that was accounted for. Like when they show up in the city, it happens to be a female warrior, how they're going to be treated. I've heard other people bitch about Tharnas and they couldn't close a deal. I did close a deal, but I had to go over and that's kind of what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. I had to go over. First, I did the agreement with the ambassador. Then I ended up having to go over and meet Juicy, who actually runs that place, and talk to her. Then I had to get back with the ambassador, write the terms. It was sent back to Juicy to get approval, and Juicy wrote me. And it was about a 3 week back and forth to get that agreement put together. Other people gripe about A, the length of time, and B, they couldn't get it done. It's not a straightforward process with that city. You got to figure out what are they actually looking for, and why is this a problem, and take into account. It's one of the few cities where you've got to deal with things like, do they wear veils when they come in? Nobody in Tharna does veils. Women carry weapons in Tharna. Are you going to allow them to come through with weapons? And this was Oni, and Oni was a stickler for the rules, but the point was I did get it done. Formal greetings, F. Your formal greeting, whether it's at the gate or in a private conversation, is respectful of yourself and those around you who are relaying information. Your formal demeanor will help you set the nature of your formal visit. Do not show up. Do you remember how Zelensky was dressed the first time he met with Trump? It made world news. In fact, the headlines yesterday also noted it. What was special about that?
I don't watch a lot of news. I find it sad and depressing,
Oh, it hit
and
national news.
I
He
just
showed up
don't
in a
want.
T-shirt. So he met the
Who did?
president, Zelensky. So he met the president of the United States, walked in with blue jeans and a T-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
Now, what was funny about this time was he flew over in the T-shirt. He actually met with a general. But before he met with President Trump, he put a jacket over it. And when Trump greeted him yesterday, Trump made a big deal out of the fact that he wore a suit. There was a picture of him looking at the suit and admiring it. So, so when it talks about your formal demeanor will also set the nature of your formal visit. Really pissed off the President of the United States that somebody would dare show up in a t shirt. Why? It shows lack of respect. Zelensky's known for his.
But didn't that Tesla guy do that too?
Pardon me?
Didn't didn't that Tesla guy, that Elon Musk, didn't he show up to a meeting with cameras in a t-shirt and a baseball hat?
Yeah, here's what's interesting about him, though. All tech companies do. Ahead of Apple, Steve Jobs used to walk in with tennis shoes and a t shirt. All the tech companies do. Microsoft's the same way. It's almost their hallmark. They'd always come in, always with tennis shoes, never formal, and dressed down like crazy. It's just their mark. Plus, he wasn't negotiating a contract with the president to stop a war. Musk wasn't. Elon Musk was not negotiating a contract to end a war. But yeah, all the
I
tech
got you.
companies
I
dress
got you.
like that. If you ever see a picture of Steve Jobs, one of the richest people in the world at the time, Look how he's dressed. You go, what the hell? I mean, the man's wealthy out the. Um, I think that the one that doesn't do is the head of Microsoft, but he's also like 50 now and pretty much retired out of the company. He doesn't dress like that. But if you look at the early, there's a movie about those called something. No, what the hell's the name of it? It deals specifically with the early tech giants. And it's well worth watching. And I think I will. I've never actually seen the movie, but I know it exists. Look at how they're dressed. It's a wonderful movie about those guys and how they founded their companies. It's a it's not a docudrama. It's a movie. But the point of it is, they all dress like that. It wasn't Musk. I don't know if it's because, anyway, that's beside the point. However, when negotiating a formal contract, not a meeting just sitting around shooting the shit, please come and come dressed formally, a formal demeanor, and act like a, you know what I'm saying, and the form of
Yeah.
greeting. Now, a form of greeting, that's funny. Example in the not the United States, Japan. In Japan, everybody carries a business card. The word konnichiwa is one way of saying that. There's actually four for every greeting. And the difference is in the endings, if I remember right. Actually, I think good morning was kumbangwa. No, Ohio. Ohio was good morning. The next one up is kumbangwa. And then konnichiwa, the end of the day greeting. Out of those, there are derivatives. And what happens was when you meet somebody in Japan, you hand them the business card and they figure out if you're over or under them. And I brought this up when I was talking about caste. The fact that Japan does have a caste system, it's just not called that. So if the person is a president of the United States, you're going to read it. He's obviously over you. And the bow that you make, how deep it is determined by how far above you the person is. If you're both heads of state, you'll bow equally. If he's the president and you're a street sweeper, you're going to bow really low. So in the greeting, like I said, there's Ohio, Konbanwa, Konnichiwa. The ending you put on that is determined by the stature of the person. The three I just gave you are very informal. Everybody knows about Konnichiwa. What they don't know is there's greetings that are above that for the person if he happens to be the president or where he is and just the owner of a company. President be the emperor be over an owner of a company, owner of a company be over you as a worker. You would have a different address for the president than you would. So what I'm trying to say, even in Japan, this whole thing of the greeting is very, very important. Okay, real life and in second life. And one of the things I'm going to give you at
Okay,
the end,
so I have a quick
go
question.
ahead.
Okay, so I'm looking at what you posted, and it says that it would be quite okay to greet the High Ambassador of Venetian Port as High Ambassador. But I thought that we weren't supposed to say people's roles out in case, for protection.
Only the
That's what I
emperor.
thought.
No, it's the emperor you're talking about. The emperor, you never,
Oh,
the
okay.
head one, he's the only one you don't do that with. Yeah, what you're talking about is when you have
But
a emperor or the administrator. In many cases, they say don't, especially if the country, especially if they're at war with another country. Hmm.
okay. Okay.
Good example, Vietnam War. They said the officers would be only stay an officer a month at most because they'd give them the stupid patches on their uniforms and the people in the jungles would shoot them first. So if you
Right.
were an officer, you
Or
got promoted
somebody
real.
would salute them.
Yeah, that was just kiss of death. So basically, they had a really, really short lifespan if you happen to be somebody in charge. So Vietnam was the classic. They said, man, those guys were getting shot fast in the jungles. And I remember that they said the promotion level. Now you may, hey, get promoted quick. You also die quickly. It's like, nah, don't even say a word. Yeah, the saluting. That's why, and it has to do with the head of the nation, the head of the city, and that's if they're at war. Normally, not so much. All right. Another historical example, but offer an opportunity. This is your time. Take control of the meeting. They're there. Wait a minute. Did I skip? Let me double check to see if I did this twice. Nope, I didn't. I'm good. This is your chance to control the meeting. You're there to present an explanation or offer a potential city on behalf of your own. Be concise with the delivery of information. Why are you there? And here's the opportunity you've brought. Again, by close listening, by the facts you collected before the meeting, which we talked about in the last class, where you're going to find out what do they trade, what do they need, where are they located geographically, things like that is going to determine what offer you're going to make. You know that the North probably has trouble getting food in there during the winter. Everything is frozen, as solid ice
Yes.
top to bottom. Chances are food is in need. There's some other things.
And wood,
Medicine connected with plants be held to get in the North in the winter. So those are items you can offer that
spices,
are
herbs.
yeah, that are specific to the fact of where they live geographically. Revisions. You still control the meeting. Here it be possible for you to offer any revisions of a plan or action on their own. That goes back to what I said was when I first met with Tharna, they weren't satisfied with my first presentation because I didn't make enough provisions for the fact that they had women warriors, women leadership, and I had to come back again. So I had to come back and bring up the revisions back to them, have clarity and understanding. And of course, I'm going to listen to the replies, any messages they send by the emotes they do that tell me how that went. You know, are they laughing their ass off and coughing, or are they actually taking it seriously? Communicate the full message of the text one more time with them, extending the message for further collaboration. Use your power of suggestion while showing your generosity for the time and efforts. Actually, you'll probably bring a present for them anyway. Remember, I brought that up when meeting with a different culture. You want to bring a present with you in order to express your generosity of them meeting with you. Different cultures. This is one of the more interesting parts of what I'm doing and varies greatly from past presentations because I added a lot to this that wasn't here before. Wagon people and dealing with the wagon people, the merchants send them in the path in advance. They will as they approach the encampment, there's usually a distance from a camp to wait. The outriders will come to you. Don't walk into the camp. Park your ass and wait. It's not a good idea just to march in. That's a good example of a culture will normally keep you alive. Ambassadors, you send your merchants in to bear gifts to the Ubar of the wagons with your negotiations. They're not called Ubars. They have another title. No, they are called Ubar. I may be wrong about that. Be creative with this one. It be important to know and respect the customer you approach different gourds. I'm going to give you a set of notes at the bottom of this that deal with 5 cultures. I think the only one I didn't do was, nuts, now I'm going to forget it, Shindy. Shindy's the only culture I didn't give the notes on. Couple reasons. There was only one Shindy city. It turns out that city is now building a second that's not yet open. We just found out this morning, went over and visited, discovered who owned it. It was a man that owns the first Shindy city. Resembles it in a lot of ways. But the point of it is, the Shindys are specifics of what you have to know, and I don't think I put it in these notes. One being the fact that both cities are predominantly speak German. Um, they are a gay sim. Both cities are going to be gay sims. Not that that matters, but don't try flirting with anybody. It won't work very well. Um, they there's going to be, like I said, certain things. They do trade with the Tulunas, so I know they do that. But basically, I would get a hold of any. I know the Varn library that's here, or Solar Ray, I guess they're calling it now. Will have more information, but not a lot on Shindy. Hermes runs it. This is, yeah, he grinned to no grin. How are the boss? He asked. Well, as many as can be expected, said Kamak. Are the quivers sharp? Quivers sharp? One tries to keep them so, says Kamak. It's important to keep the axles of the wagons greased, observed Konochuk. Yes, said I believe so. Komachek suddenly reached out and he Kamak laughing, clasping each other's hands. So he kind of did have you drank water? Have you eaten today? How you doing? Are your wagon wheels greased? So that's one way of greeting. The culture of wagon people is accustomed and may be skeptical of the merchant coming for trade. Words stranger and enemies have the same meaning. Somebody asked if all cultures do that. No, panties don't have that. So not every culture says it enemies. It said on Gore that the word uh, uh, it's the same word, but not all the culture groups are that way. You don't approach the panty the way you would the wagon people. Okay, so what I'm looking for is the page number. There it is. This one is important. It's a ritual that bonds you with Chinook camp. The Tuk then rode the soil, picked up a handful of dirt and grass, the land on which the boss grazed, the land which the land of the Chinooks. In this dirt and this grass he thrust on my hand, and I held it. The warrior grinned, putting his hands over mine, so our hands together held the dirt, and were together clasping it. Yes, said the warrior, coming peace. So you have the clasping of the dirt is a very important thing for the Chinook to make an agreement to be bonded with trust. He has held with me dirt and soil, dirt and earth. That's your goal. Now, in the Tohari, what's the custom in the hot Tohari for bonding? Do you know?
I do not.
Licking of salt. The men lick each salt off each other's wrists. That's how you bond. So
Huh.
in the wagon people, you share the grass and the earth. In the Tohari, you lick the salt. Those are important considerations when you're trying to craft agreements. Should a merchant, you may have to be sent to discuss the process of a safe passage or even a trade agreement. All merchants are considered inferior to the wagon people. That's important to know. And if they are accepted for trade, the wagon people will brand the merchant on the left wrist. Do not panic if they take out a fucking brand and want to brand your left wrist.
Well, I don't know about that. There might be some
Designating its
panic.
future and acceptability to trade with them. If you're going to trade with the wagon people, your left wrist is going to be branded. So, like I said, it's these little cultural nuances. As the wagon people would not have formal scrolls, it would behoove the merchant dealing with them to keep a record for you in the city of items traded and acquired items from them. I would pause to ask myself as an ambassador, why would I want to have a trade agreement with the wagon people? The Bosque sacred, so you sure as hell can't. Yeah, you don't want to trade them boss meat, let me put it that way. If you try and kill one, you'll be staked to the earth, the herd driven to your death. They are actually one of the most fierce. They are labeled as the most fierce group in Gore, so they're not easy to deal with. They're known as salt hunters, fishermen, trackers, even the bones of Oscar used for making it tools, as the hides are cured for leather. Devise how they could be used in your own city. Society needs. Consider what you do. What could your city bring to trade? Even in the greetings, there are tips on how they want to use flint to make arrow tips. Also use grease for the agons. A lot to you to think about. I gave you the trade map if I remember right.
Yes, sir.
That would help. I've
Yes,
also
sir.
used the wagon people today to get you in to think of the box. For you to formulate a larger perception what it entails for you to be ambassador gaining vast knowledge. Again, the library here has notes on all these cultures. I'm going to give you some of those, but there's probably more. I know there's more. It's like Red Savage. I didn't put that in there, but there's a whole section on Red Savage. Savages. Initial
I met
visiting.
one.
there's actually a new city. Red Savage City has been advertising for role players. So there's at least two that I know of, maybe three. Um, Interesting group, but you definitely want to research if you want to trade with them. One of them is super big in GNS. If you're in the GNS, that is where you want to go. Used to Wagam, okay. Initial visit with any group, clan, camp, city, even the traders of the Torvas land. Study and be prepared in advance for initial contact. Be prepared to present a gift to the city. Now I'm giving you notes on Torvas land. We have an extensive section in the library about them. One thing is you gather items a gift to consider. It's easy to deliver a slave as a gift. Yet, I would offer you'll use an alternative gift from my own take on this. A slave has eyes and ears, could and would be considered a potential spy. So they just probably send it to the damn kennels. Wouldn't be used anyway, so don't do it. Okay, I'm going to jump over that paragraph. Let me get down here. Having tossed out the thought, you'll become a negotiator, which is a whole class coming up in itself. Next one. One of the greatest assets of mastering a cool, calm as you deal with people in emotionally charged situations, carefully taking command. That is very sage advice. You're dealing with people, some of these people have been doing this crap for a long time. And I just realized that. Just a second, I lost my place. One of the problems is I'm chopping a paragraph up, and I did that and lost myself. Interesting. I wonder if I bet I did. I think I took this out and accidentally. Okay, now, there's what I want. I'm chopping a paragraph up. The damn thing's too long. I don't like chunking out. There we go. Anticipate and advance your first visit with a potential city or ally. Taking time, it may be a social visit with any new city. It's not a waste of time. What is really, really, really cool is you can go to new cities or fairly new cities and they'll be glad to see you. So you actually have an excuse to show up. Warriors and other stuff, they look at, some cities will look at you cross-eyed. But what is cool is when you're ambassador, you have an excuse to be there. And they don't look at you funny and wonder who you are. It's, oh, good, let's sit down. Where are you from? And you get accepted totally different. Humor can relax, deliver, and yet delivered wrongly can offend. Be yourself. Haste and go. Most of most of all have some fun. Initial visit or maybe only social. Be prepared with the invitation and your purpose there. Give the invite to them. Give them an a no card. Wait for them over a couple of days perhaps and bring their own Ubar and High Council. Affirm another meeting with the other city. Leave it open to facilitate a time. That can be tricky, so you do need to get back. You do need to.
Do ambassadors have interns?
You can. I recommend it.
That
And
would be the best way to learn.
I would because
'Cause this is
honestly, I traveled with two of the best damn ambassadors I've ever seen. I've been an ambassador a couple of cities. I've traveled with ambassadors. They needed male guards, and in both cases, I learned a tremendous amount watching them work. Um, Jordan, who's gone right now, Argonaut, still respected by a hell of a lot of cities, was really good at it. She had two qualities. She always brought cookies or something. Would come in and graciously and would be very, very gentle about coming in. But she had this slave that in real life was a worked in writing of some sort. And what I know is that when she did a contract, her slave would help her craft it, the wording of it. And as she called it, the typist would go to work and look over the contract, help her with wording. She'd be an ear to catch anything that was said that she missed. In fact, I think one of the things that stopped Jordan from doing it was that her slave left. She was with that slave for quite a while, and I forgot what happened, but the slave quit being with her, and I think it bummed Jordan out, and she dropped out of doing it. Went to Second Life, but dropped out of Gore. And I'm absolutely convinced it had to do with that slave. The other one that was extremely good was a young lady in the Congo family who's Lady May's daughter, no sister, and that girl was one hell of a. She'd never been. She basically she was brilliant. She said nobody would give her the chance to do it, and I went ahead and did it. She was very, very grateful. Um, she was very, very good. She liked to go up north. We'd be, oh God, these guys must have been 10 feet tall. I mean, one guy made me feel tiny next to him. Um, Giants. And she'd bring this little basket of cheese and would walk in with her cheese and would sweet talk the guy and offer to trade. And I mean, it's just incredible to watch her work. And she set up a little table in their markets to sell cheese. And she was one hell. And she came up with creative ways, things that no one would think of to facilitate trade, like our bags of sand. I told you about that. We had for 5 grades of sand. We had the sand for glass, sand for pits, sand pits for people to dance in. She and I worked that out, and then her jewelry kit that she started making jewelry, rubies and sapphires. Brilliant woman, but watching
Ooh,
them work, you learn a lot about this stuff because both of them were gifted in doing it. She made mistakes, but she did a hell. Panthers are Tulunas. I told you Cindy's got the Tulunas. Okay, they have leaders of each band, so you got to find out who in the heck the leader is. Culture's very, very different. Who should they find out who you should address? The first or the second? They run in bands. Just a second. They're they run in bands are the ones who deal with allies, captive trade. First, ensure you're going to be safe. The Ricky is the one you want to contact. I don't know if you have her name or not, Rippy Farnsworth. She trades mercilessly. She runs a master sheet where she knows where her people's going to be, what time, and she'll bring a whole band of people to trade. And if she likes it, it'll become weekly. I knew one city where it's just monthly. Then it moved up to weekly because they so enjoyed the role play of the trading. They like arrowheads. They like furs. They like. I have a whole bunch of assets that can be traded that I can res, not just theoretically that I can put on a wagon and res to trade with those guys. They used to come in the city and we'd roll the wagon up and put the stuff on and roll it out for them to take away. Like I can do whole boxes of arrowheads. I can throw out furs, silks. They can be res. In Second Life, there used to be for free different places you can go and get stuff. And they were transferable, so they were used for trade. In fact, I have about 50 medical items that are transferable and are all medicine that I found on an island just sitting in a dispenser, believe it or not. They're all labeled and brightly colored, and you can put them on a shelf, and they're all ready to be traded. And they're all can be passed. And I found it on an island with nothing on it but this one thing to trade medicine. Send a gray man to secure a meeting. We'll explain. A gray man's somebody discreet like a mercenary, a peasant, or a low caste. Do not send somebody extremely high up the food chain, basically. A peasant's a good idea. Then they'll be less likely to steal his
pecan.
ass. That's important. I once, unfortunately, I went along with the role play, but I once got captured by a group of panthers. They were raiding a city.
Oh
Unfortunately, the guy
my.
behind me shut the damn gate on me, and they ended up capturing. They actually threw me in a boat, rowed down the river, stuck me on this rope overhanging a canyon, stripped my clothes, and I hung there for 2 days, buck naked. No, I was there for a day. It was so bad people were taking photographs of me hanging naked upside down on a canyon with panthers dance with panthers dancing happily behind me. Um,
That's
the city did put
funny.
together a rescue party. They went and fought the panthers, eventually recaptured me. I got to dress again and went back to the city. But I literally, like I said, they captured my ass, stripped me, put me over a canyon on a rope, and they did a rescue party. I was a little
That
worried
is
about
so
that, but
fun.
pardon me.
That sounds like so much fun.
That's the only reason I went along with it. But yeah, they threw me in a boat, literally rowed down the river, drug my ass up the deal, tied me up, dragged my ass up there, had me upside down, stripped naked while they danced and enjoyed the warrior that they captured. Any rate, that was a fun. Oh, those are fun times. Anyway, usually the pissed me off. The guy shut that door and got me captured though, and then he lied
You did it
later
on
about what
purpose.
he lied. Boy, did he lie about what happened. Ah, he lied massively. Anyway, Panthers and Tulane come from your city for trade. That's why I said send a gray man or somebody. They will take you, and they do. It is when you do that kind of role play, weird things happen. I've been there and done it. This conducted under the docks, where under merchant laws, they may be armed, but you can capture them or simply trade with them. Tharna's, no, Therm is very, very good. Well, the old Therna. I'm not sure about the current one. The one before this, they had you'd go out the gate and down the highway, and there was this trade area that was neutral, and you were able to trade with the Panthers and other things right outside the city. Okay, there we go. Let's see what this says. The chief says the river is dangerous. Beyond this point, there are hostile tribes, dangerous waters, great animals, monsters, and tunas. White-skinned jungle girls. Think of Xena, the warrior princess. They basically are Amazonian women, is what they're trying to do with this. He indicated the blonde-haired barbarian kneeling, her hands tied behind her back, her neck rope in the hands of Alice, who in a livery flow stood beside her. He thought she might be one, he said. He told him it's an ordinary slave.
Told what?
The blonde girl, he thought she might be one of those crazy-eyed women, but it turns out she's just an ordinary slave, nothing exciting. They quickly spoke among themselves. It was not in Korean. We are the slaves of the Tulunas, said one of the men, their leader. I nodded. I thought so from their behavior. He was from the Tulunas, too. Doubtlessly, they'd learned their Korean. We fish, we hunt for them, we make cloth and serve them, said one of the men. So they do make slaves out of the men they capture. Men should not be slaves of women, I said. Women should be made slaves of men. We are small, said a man. The Tulunas are too large and strong for us. And that's kind of sad. These men must have been munchkins like in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, seriously, these women, Amazon women, are too large and strong. Think of little Wizard of Oz people. Um, they may be taken and made slaves of for any woman. Help us to rid ourselves of the Luna, said the leader. I have business on the river. So they do capture, they do make men slaves. Some of them do. Ricky doesn't. Ricky Farnsworth does not do that. Quite the opposite. But there are tribes like the one who captured me who do things like this. They are forest girls, sometimes called panther girls, who live. I often wonder why I have, because they made friends with me, a couple of them. And I wonder why when I look, I say, what the hell am I doing with the panther on my friends list? But that's what happened. Those are the girls that captured me. Forest girl called panther girls who live wild and free in the northern forest, outlaw women, sometimes enslave men when it pleases them to do so. So I'm going to skip this next quote. I gave you a bunch of notes. Next one is Torvas Land and their customs. It talks about the castes. It talks about some of their basic customs. Are there castes in Torvas Land? Quick, easy answer, no. Yeah, you want to read Marauders of Gore if you're going to deal with them. It's very much modeled after the Vikings. Here's the trick about the Vikings, though, that I didn't realize till more recently in my history, is that they had no written history. So everything you read about them is written by the Italians, the French, or the British, those who they attacked. So, but they themselves were oral storytellers, much like the wagon people. Okay. You're going to find no literature made by them. Well, I think there's one document, maybe, but they pretty much were not. That's not how they did it. They were very much oral. Native Americans, so the red people may also do the same thing. Because I know in the Native American tribes, one person was given to be the storyteller, and everything was passed from person to person. Salt, very, very important in Torvas land. There's a passage where along with Tarot Cabas described the long run of Sliven Bluetooth in which salt is designated as being determined status of the North. So salt is a major trading. If they don't have it, they will trade for it. Their status is determined by it. Also, seating at the table of the Ubar. If you do send somebody to sit, where you sit on the table is determined by your status. There's a salt line on every table. If you're above the salt line, then you're sitting on the dignitary side. If you're below the salt line, then you're just regular people. But you're seated on a ubar, not an ubar, but crap, I forgot the name of, my brain went. Sorry, been at this all day. Jars. If you're
I'm
seated at a
sorry.
jars table, where you sit, you're either above the salt or below the salt. And that's good to know. Now, I don't know. I own a couple of the tables. I do not remember looking for the salt line, so I need to check that next time I get a chance. If you're sitting on a table in Torvas land, you're likely to see bowls of salts placed on the table, make distinction of who is above and below the salt. Always sit below the salt unless told otherwise. If the jar will invite you up to sit with his people, if he considers it, but don't presume it. Here's another thing. I'd mentioned the Tahari custom. It's also true in Torvas land, as shown by this quote. We have tasted salt then from each of the back of the wrist. Marauders of Gore. They have the same practice at the Tahari. Life in the village revolves around the long haul. Go the long haul, you might find the people. That becomes important. By the way, Billy Ann Bravin did the notes that I'm using, a lot of the notes on Torvas land. Not the upper part, but she's a specialist that teaches at the Gorian campus, specifically on Torvas land. That's all she teaches on. Lumber is a valuable commodity. Is generally milled and taken northward. They need to buy it. Torvas land's bleak, so they trade wood. Oni's a good example. Oni loves trading wood. They have loads of wood. They live in the forest. Excellent product if you're going to go up north. They have to build those long hauls with something. Gift giving is different in the north. Gift giving is important. By custom, the host is supposed to give the best gifts. So if you go to visit, do not try and show off and hand them something kick ass. It's an insult for a gift to get give a better gift than the host. Now, I am giving you notes on the Tahari, Panthers, Wagon people, and that it tells a whole range of things. And like I told you, the library here has even more, but it will. This will at least give you a start on researching a lot of the customs and what would be useful, especially when going to really diverse cultures, like I said, Torves land, or actually they're better known than the Wagon people or the Red Savages. Basically, do your homework. Now, your city may have no. Here's the thing: you got to make a decision as an ambassador. Um, in 2 months, I turned in 6 agreements. I was doing one every 2 weeks. I took it seriously. I went to cities. In some cases, it took me 3 weeks to do one agreement, but they overlapped. But every time they came back, I had another agreement ready for them. So a lot of cities have an ambassador. They don't submit anything. They essentially take all their time playing. They don't bother to do agreements. They use it as an excuse to travel and not be in the city, but have a cool title. In many cases, ambassadors get good homes. Nobody ever sees them in the city. Well, I'm traveling. Sure, they are, but where are the agreements? So, my point is, if you're going to do the job, then do the research. You could choose just to trade in the South. I'm going to be honest, I was going through all the new cities today. An awful lot of the cities in Gore are northern. And with the city list I gave you last week, there's 146 cities, but you need a really good list. And I think when you put that search in for search terms and put in Gore, it's not giving you all 146. So use that list I gave you to go in and find the cities that you're missing. And pick them by cast. I mean, pick them by Paro, Play, GE, whatever type of city that your city is. And then start going through and doing those by section. Keep good notes. Definitely, if you put in Gore, that doesn't show all the cities because that shows nowhere near 146 Gorean cities. And yet we know there are that many. So anyway, that gives you the notes. Have fun.